What's up, guys? It's Matthew Rhoades here with Enamored Studios, and today we're going to go over art supplies, or in my case, it's mostly drawing supplies. I'm a bit more of a draftsman. I prefer to draw. Yeah, this is going to be the first part of a 3-part series called Basics. And this first part is obviously supplies. The second part will be how to capture form in your drawings accurately, and the third part will be value and shading, how to properly value an object and portray depth. Anyways, to begin here, we're gonna go over some supplies, and just to begin, I cannot stress enough how important it is to just focus on your technique and just practice drawing. You don't need to go out and buy the most expensive supplies. Yeah, I mean, you could have a 50-cent ballpoint pen and complete an amazing drawing with that. So a lot of it comes down to technique. I'd say like over 90% is technique. The other remaining percentage comes down to your supplies, I guess, or your circumstance. Anyways, you know, whether it's a number 2 pencil from school, if you are in school, or like I said earlier, a cheap pen, you guys can practice on anything, on computer paper, on line paper, just draw if you want to get better. So don't think going out and buying expensive supplies will, yeah, make better drawings, because it really doesn't. It comes down to you. I just want to say that, and yeah, this is going to be a good video. So to begin, you're going to need a spot to work, and it doesn't have to be fancy. Right now I just have I'm just sitting at what I think is a pretty old desk. It's my wife's desk, and I just put some wood panels here just because I thought it looked kind of cool. And it is a nice surface. Yeah, a lot of the times I'll find myself drawing on if you have a big hardcover book, just any nice flat rigid surface is nice to draw on top of. A lot of the times you might not want the surface to be flat across from you like this, flat. You might want it up at like a 45-degree angle, especially if you're drawing from life. You kind of want your paper up in a good viewpoint as the object that you're drawing. Yeah, so you could go out to Home Depot or even an art store and buy a masonite board, which makes a great drawing surface if you don't have a desk. Anyways, enough of that. Yeah, just a good drawing surface. It's not too complicated with that. But yeah, to begin, obviously my first go-to is going to be a pencil. So the pencils I use are Staedtler. I worked at an art store for a short time, and that's where I kind of fell in love with these pencils. I hope I'm saying their name properly. Staedtler, I think. Anyways, this is the first tin I bought. They're not the cheapest pencils, so like I say, don't go out and buy the most expensive pencils right away. Anyways, so this is the first set I purchased. I've refilled it since then. They're going to be from 4H to 6B, and what that implies is the hardness of the graphite. The bigger the H number, the harder the lead. The bigger the B number, the softer the lead. And the harder the lead, the lighter the graphite will look. I'm using lead and graphite interchangeably. And the bigger the B number, or the softer the graphite, the darker your pencil will look. And that's just the full spectrum in between those two, as you can see there, from 6B to 4H. So that's obviously a newer canister I bought there. Yeah, and you don't have to go out and buy these in a big package. They sell them like this too. So yeah, you just really need your basics. This is from HB to 8B. So it's going to be like a nice mid-tone to a darker tone. So you could definitely lay out some nice preliminary sketches with the HB and go in and darken up your shading with, you know, say 6B or 8B. You could also buy these individual. In addition to pencils, I guess next up would be erasers. Let's see here. I use kind of a standard of 3 erasers. Typically, I just use one the most. The one I use the most is going to be this kneaded eraser here. It's kind of fun. It's kind of like Play-Doh. And the way this works is, and you could shape it if you need to get into a detailed area. It's not going to be the most precise eraser, but what I like about it is that it doesn't really damage your paper. And yeah, so whenever you do get graphite on this guy, you're just going to knead it back into place, and it disperses the graphite throughout the eraser and it essentially cleans it. These last a really long time and they're very inexpensive. They're about $1. The next most popular eraser I use would be the gum eraser. I believe this is rubber. It's like a rubber-based eraser. Again, it doesn't really damage the paper that you're using. It's one of the biggest perks of it. It is going to be a little more, obviously a little harder than this guy, so it's going to be able to get into a little tighter areas for some more detailed erasing. And next up would just be your standard plastic or rubber eraser. Yeah, again, this is going to be good for detailed areas. In my opinion, this is a little rougher on the paper, so yeah, it just depends on the situation you're in. But anyways, those are my 3 preferred. Again, they're all very inexpensive, so you could pick all 3 up for probably under $4 and see what you prefer. Let's go to sharpening devices here. I'm not gonna pull out a regular pencil sharpener. 1, I don't own one, and 2, you guys all know what those look like. But I will show you the way I sharpen my pencils. I'm pulling this out just because I have it. I really don't use it. This is a sandpaper block, and you could really just buy sandpaper from Home Depot, which is really cheap. And you're just going to, what that is used for is really to point the tip of your pencil. So if you're working with a pencil for some time and it starts to get kind of dull and you're losing the detail that you'd like to achieve, you're just going to take the end of that graphite and rub it along here. You kind of turn it as you do it. And that's going to get the graphite to a nice point. I don't know if you guys can see that. Hopefully you can. So you can get some nice detailed lines. And if you're new to the drawing game, you might think my pencils look a little funny at the tips. It's definitely not your standard sharpening technique as far as, you know, general, what people mostly do. But a lot of artists do it this way. Let's see. Here we go. So I've seen some people, this is an X-Acto knife. So it's just a little razor blade at the end of this. I've seen some people use the square razors and they hold it a little too close for comfort to me, and they hold it kind of like this, and they'd sharpen their pencil that way. I prefer just to use this X-Acto and use it similarly, but your thumb is going to be at the neck here of the razor, and you're just going to push. I'm not going to do it just for mess sake. Avoid making a mess here, but you guys get the idea. You're just going to sharpen it like that. You want to be sure not to go in too deep because you will break the lead. It's going to happen, so if that happens, don't get frustrated. Just be patient and try again. It's a good test of patience there. So yeah, we went over some pencils, graphite specifically, erasers, and sharpening techniques. Next up, let's keep it in the pencil category and go over charcoal. Here we have black charcoal and white charcoal. And these are just what I said. They're charcoal pencils. Yeah, they're pretty cool. You're not gonna get your hands dirty from grasping on the charcoal. They're surrounded in wood, so that's nice. Yeah, the white charcoal tends to be pretty standard. You're just gonna buy white charcoal, and it is what it is. As far as the black charcoal, they have different hardnesses similar to graphite. So this is going to be a HB. So this is going to be kind of a mid-ground to a lighter charcoal. Whereas if you were to buy a 4B or say a 6B or even 8B, those are going to be very black and very soft and actually a little more messy too. Charcoal's really nice if you want to lay down some gestures. It's going to pull off the paper really easily, and yeah, if you don't want to leave any too permanent of marks on your paper, charcoal's a good way to go. Also, if you have paper, I didn't really want to, I'll show you the paper in a second, but if you use a toned paper or a paper that's not white, you can use black and white charcoal to achieve a really cool effect. So you're going to use your black obviously as your shadows and darks, and you're going to use your white charcoal as your highlights. And the mid-tone will be the color of the background of the paper. You could even do it on this wood. This wood is kind of a mid-tone here. Yeah, so that's charcoal. And since we are talking about charcoal, I'll show you this stuff too. This is called vine charcoal. They have this in different hardnesses and softness as well. This is soft. I think they have very soft, medium, hard, and very hard, if I remember right. This is pretty inexpensive as well. Let me see if I can pull one of these out. They're pretty delicate. They break fairly easily. I don't know how these are made. All I know is they're very light. I don't know if it's an actual vine made into charcoal. I don't believe so. But yeah, and it kind of looks like it though. Anyways, these are very light and they're going to break apart very easily. And like I said earlier, if you're doing a preliminary sketch or gesture, this is going to be really temporary. So it's a good way to get a quick sketch down, and you can just wipe it away with a cloth or even use your kneaded eraser and just kind of dab it up. Yeah, this is used a lot in life drawing. It's actually the reason I have these. I bought it for that class. Alright, next up, we're going to go into my favorites, pens. We're going to start with ballpoint pens. As I said earlier, you have your 50-cent Bic pen here. It's just a ballpoint. It's basic. You guys all know what these do. But you could achieve really cool effects with these and do some pretty cool drawings. Like I said, you don't need to go out and buy the most expensive thing out there. This is a Staedtler, same brand as those pencils. I guess they're my favorite brand. I don't know. I didn't plan that. But this is definitely my favorite pen. This is a 0.2 millimeter. It's a very fine ballpoint pen. This is going to write a line or draw a line very similar to that of a pencil. So it's going to be very fine. You could achieve very, very nice details with this. And you could even do preliminary sketches because it is so fine. When you lay down those base lines and go over them later, they're not going to be very noticeable. So this pen is amazing. I wish it was refillable. It's a $6 pen. So I'd recommend getting your foundations down and practicing before you go out and buy something like this. But yeah, if you are there or you want to just try it out, I definitely recommend it. It's a nice pen. So those are ballpoints. Next up would be like a multi-liner. Excuse me there, I had to go get the one multi-liner I have right now. Or it's a Micron. Prismacolor makes a brand, or makes a line called Prisma multi-liners, I believe. They all do the same thing. They're all felt tip, similar to that of a Sharpie. The felt at the tip of a Sharpie. It's going to be a similar material at the end of this, but it's going to be very fine. Microns are great. They're actually waterproof, so you can lay some lines down, and if you wanted to go over them with, say, a watercolor, you know your ink is going to stay in place and it's not going to bleed on you. They make these in different varying widths. I believe this is an 8. I don't know if it's 0.8 or 8. I don't really remember how the numbering system goes on these, but excuse me, I'm still trying to get over a cold. Yeah, an 8 this is a little bit of a thicker one. They have some that are much thinner, so these are great for cross hatching and yeah, all that ink related work. And obviously you guys all know what a Sharpie is, but yeah, same concept there. I believe Sharpie even makes a few multi-liners. I think they just call it extra fine, or I don't know. They use a different name. Next up, would be markers. There's a few markers here. You guys are probably familiar with Copics, or a lot of you are. A lot of manga series, or a lot of manga artists love Copics, and other artists as well. They're great pens, they're great markers. They're alcohol based. These are Molotovs. As I said in my other video, if it's still up, I think it's pronounced Molotov, or some people at least pronounce it that way. These are paint pens, and it's going to be acrylic paint. They're going to lay down very thick, and these actually dry pretty quickly too. I think, you know, about a minute, 2 minutes max, they're going to be dry on you, so that's pretty good too. They actually make these with different widths as well. This is a white, and it has a little nib at the tip, and you can actually pull that nib out. These are refillable. Yeah, and replace the nib and put some new paint in there if you want to. They have a little bearing inside to mix that paint up. And yeah, this is the same, just a different color. I have a few of these. When I show you guys paper later, maybe I'll go over and show you how these work. And as far as the Copics go, these are amazing markers. They're probably the best out there. You can, again, they're kind of expensive. I think my wife actually bought this. I don't really use Copics, but I think she bought this a while back, so I thought I'd show you guys. What is pretty cool about Copics or other alcohol-based markers are the fact that you can shade with them. You could get different values in there by going over your line multiple times, which is pretty cool. They're pretty versatile. Yeah, so if you're into markers, you might want to check those out. Next up, we're just going to go over paper. I'll start with kind of the most basic and go up from there. This is going to be your basic. I'm going to stand up for this part. This is going to be your basic, just sketchbook here. I believe this is a Canson. Yeah, Canson. We're looking at 5x7, 65 pound. So the poundage there means the thickness of the paper. And 65 pounds is, it's on the thinner side, at least in my opinion. Let's see if you guys can see the texture of the paper. This is pretty smooth. This is going to be good for doing some sketches. I personally wouldn't do any finished pieces on it just because it is so thin. But it's going to be good for sketches and yeah, all those practice drawings. You could do finished drawings on here, but I don't know. Everybody's different. Next up would be this guy. This thing is massive. I don't even know if I could get it in the frame here. This is called, the company that makes this is B Paper Company. And it's just great paper. This paper is 93 pounds. The other was 65. So you can imagine how much thicker this paper is. It's a good size. I believe it's, yeah, 9x12. Which is pretty standard. And this paper, here, you guys could kind of see something I was working on the other day. This is actually a wolf skull that I was going to mirror and draw. And you can see the lines in this drawing. That's actually made with the Stedler. So you can see all that cross hatching going on. I ended up not liking the way it's turning out, so I just stopped working on this. But if you guys like it, give me some feedback. Maybe I'll finish it up for you guys. But yeah, this paper here, see if you can get in there. It's going to be a little more rough than the Canson, and quite a bit thicker. So yeah, that's that guy. Next up, you have something called tone paper. This paper is gray. You can see that. And yeah, this is going to be good for those charcoal drawings I was mentioning earlier. Let's see. So this is going to be a Strathmore. There's a little goofy drawing on the back there. This is going to be a Strathmore, and excuse the lighting. I know it's shining in here kind of weird. This is 5.5 by 8.5, and this is 80 pound. So not quite as thick as the B paper, not as thin as the Canson. And again, it's going to be good for doing those two-tone drawings. Yeah, so that could be fun. And last but not least, we have watercolor. This is probably the smallest watercolor block you've ever seen. It's tiny. But yeah, watercolor paper is very thick. I don't think this actually mentions the weight of the paper. And just for you guys, a little tidbit. The thickness of paper is called weight. So the heavier the weight, the thicker. The lighter the weight, the lighter. Or the thinner, rather. Yeah, so this is for watercoloring. You could use markers on this. You could use anything. This is that Belton Molotov. I'll show you guys how that works. You can see there that's pretty thick. For these, you might want to keep some scratch paper handy because you push that nib down to draw the paint into the tip. Yeah. It's very smooth. And when you use paper like this, that heavier texture isn't going to really bother this because it lays down so thick. But if you were to use, say, that 0.2mm pen on this, you're going to be able to see the texture in the drawing. I'll show you with the charcoal. Then I'll bring it up closer for you guys to see. It's a quick shading there. As you guys can see, you can see that texture. Anyways, that's really about it, guys. Other than that, you have many different options for storing your supplies. This is what my wife and I currently have, in addition to drawers and drawers full of art supplies. This is just that little art bin. You could pick these up for about 12 bucks, I believe. This is actually my wife's. This is Art Supply Warehouse. It's actually where my wife and I met. Yeah, I'm not sponsored by them or doing any promotions for them. I just worked there for a while, and yeah, they're an awesome company, really good deals. Yeah, so there's their website if you want to check. And any of this stuff that I just showed you, that's where I bought it. It's great. They do a lot of online activities, so you can buy stuff online. And if you're local to Southern California, you can go check them out as well. Anyways, other than that, guys, like I said earlier, I don't recommend going out and buying the most expensive supplies. Just focus on those fundamentals of drawing, work on the basics, and from there, treat yourself to, buying better supplies as you get better. That's what I recommend. And in art, like anything else, there's really no right or wrong way about going about it. Just do what feels right to you. Anyways, that was a good video, guys. I hope you guys liked it. If you guys did enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up on the bottom there, and I'd love it if you subscribed. And I'd love any feedback from you guys in the comment section below. And any questions you have, I'll do my best to answer those. Alright guys, have a good day. See ya.